What if I told you there's a 23.75% chance that the supplement industry will be unrecognizably annihilated in the next year? First off, I don't want this to be like a sky is falling moment that creates panic and mass hysteria, but we do need to walk through a very scary, very plausible black swan event that would completely disrupt the supplement industry as we know it today. For those that haven't read Talib's book, Black Swan Theory centers around an event in human history that was unprecedented and unexpected at the point in time that it occurred. However, after evaluating the surrounding context, domain experts can usually conclude it was bound to happen. Since I don't mention it often and it validates that I'm not some like cuckoo bird making wild statements for attention, I've been a highly trusted strategist within the emerging and intersecting categories of functional food, beverage, and nutritional supplements for the last dozen years. Most of my projects center around devising integrative strategic recommendations to help clients either take advantage of emerging opportunities or minimize risk from challenging, complex situations, both of which typically require me to routinely see around the corner. But enough about me, though, as it literally makes me uneasy saying things that could be construed as humble brags or whatever. But what's most important here is that I've been modeling out some probabilities of certain external threats to the functional ingredient supply chain for some of my CPG clients, of which one is growing in concern. Plus, I haven't seen other industry leaders speak up about this. This is likely due to them needing to focus on the already very real onslaught of domestic threats to the supplement industry by regulatory agencies and the legislative branch of the government. And I don't want to really minimize that, but I do want us to kind of look past that and focus on the geopolitical risks that are building from the growing tensions between China and Taiwan. A recent poll of more than 350 international relations experts estimated that there's a 23.75% chance of a Chinese attack against Taiwan within the next year. You might think that probability is still quite low, but we've already seen the Chinese Communist Party increase mobilization of both the People's Liberation Army, Air Force, and Navy towards Taiwan. Plus, new bases are appearing in the South China Sea, and more large scale military exercises around Taiwan have been occurring. Similarly, the US Congress greenlit a $3 billion Pentagon budget to provide military aid to Taiwan, and the president just authorized $500 million worth of weapons aid to Taiwan using the same emergency authority that has been used more than, I think, 35 times at this point for Ukraine. Which should be making us kind of ask ourselves, why is China making these colossal investments? And then why is America ramping up support? Prudence dictates that we must at least consider the worst. Now, this doesn't guarantee a China versus United States war. In fact, those same international relations experts think there's slightly less than a 1 in 4 chance of that happening anytime within the next decade. Yet, it's still important for us to mention that these percentages have been increasing since previous similar surveys. But let's not get lost in the extremes. Any attack on Taiwan by China would most certainly mean governmental sanctions and trillions in world trade deterioration. And we're talking like many multiples of economic impact to what has happened because of the Russia Ukraine conflict. Have you ever kind of stopped to think about why the US government passed the $280 billion CHIPS Act in late 2022? The world as we know it today doesn't turn without semiconductors, and Taiwan is a crucial link in the global supply chains, particularly for advanced chips. That makes chip production facilities an obvious target for Chinese military, and thus causing a catastrophic blow to every sector, far worse than the supply constraints that we just experienced during the global endemic. But believe it or not, that nightmare scenario isn't the biggest risk for the supplement industry. If you weren't aware, outside of something like protein powders, the vast majority of functional ingredients used within the American supplement industry are sourced from the Chinese manufacturing sector. Over the last 3 decades, America has moved the bulk of its manufacturing to China as we've transformed into a services economy. Now, when you remember that most of the economic activity for the supplement industry has happened over that same 3 decade period, you quickly realize that the supplement industry exposed itself to a major problem. It's compounded by the fact that despite 4 out of 5 American adults taking supplements, most functional ingredients would not be considered a matter of national security that required government intervention to supersede any trade restrictions. Throw in what I was mentioning earlier about the US government not even being on team supplement industry right now, and it's easy to see that there will be no CHIPS Act preventative hedging going on for the supplement industry. So, just to reiterate the scorecard here, American supplement industry is all in on China for supply. The US and China relations are breaking down, and saving the supplement industry will most likely not be a matter of national security for America. That means things can get scary fast. The next logical thought is, why doesn't the supplement industry start reshoring or nearshoring or even friendshoring our supply of the needed functional ingredients? If only it was that easy, right? American consumers are drunk on low prices, or at least that was the case until this period of inflation. But getting comfortable with inflated prices for a short period and spending considerably more on supplements regularly are two different things. That would severely hurt the accessibility of supplements. And that's what would most likely happen if we manufactured everything in America. Our labor costs are just too damn high. Additionally, who's footing the bill for all of this manufacturing and agricultural capital expenditures when our interest rates are rising? This doesn't even take into the effect of all of the regulatory hurdles from areas like the EPA that doesn't want this type of manufacturing inside of the country. Where next do we go? Europe is too expensive as well. Plus, EU rules add another kind of layer of complication. Mexico gets us into a better place, but not the greatest solution because of their suboptimal agricultural situation. Then you go further south, and there's likely some opportunities in South America, but in terms of a strong enough replacement to substantially diversify the supplement industry supply chain over the next decade, you likely need to look towards India and the continent of Africa. The simple answer to this complex problem is that we will never really fully replace China, but increased investments across America, Europe, South America, Southeast Asia, India, and a handful of countries in Africa will reduce the US supplement industry's dependence on China. But I just kind of want to end on some final thoughts. You might have listened to this content and thought, chill, Josh. We have enough on our plates already, and the probabilities here are low of what you're talking about. And I get it, but even if China never attacks Taiwan militarily, instead choosing gray zone tactics such as cyber warfare and ongoing military exercises, that still makes it riskier and costlier for other nations to do business within this region, as seas around China and Taiwan are some of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. Yes, two-way trade between the United States and China set a new record in 2022. But one last consideration to think about. Despite political polarization within the United States, US foreign policy seems to be experiencing a rebirth of bipartisanship among policymakers. Nowhere is there greater agreement than on the perception of China's rise as a threat to the United States. Remember, there's nothing to worry about until the moment invading forces cross a border. Then there's everything to worry about. With US China relations at an all time low, punitive actions targeting China have become politically popular, which makes the speed of action likely very swift. So, even if your supplement company feels great about their supplier relationships now, don't get caught sleeping at the wheel. I hope you enjoyed this YouTube video. If you did, consider hitting the like button to support me. Also, help me get to my new short-term goal of 3,000 subscribers by hitting that subscribe button. I'd love to see you join me on this journey, but we need to fix the fact that Basically, 80% of you that are watching this YouTube video right now are not subscribed to my channel, and that makes me extremely sad. But I do want to thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.